Hey, Matt, good to be back on today. And it's exciting to talk about some of these little business nuggets and, share best practices and some of our recent learnings with people. We've been working through the acronym CARE, the philosophy of action coach of community, accountability, results, and education. And today's focus is going to be on education.
Okay.
Man, that means so much to me, so many different people. Um, Kind of my experience is, man, people get to a certain age in life and they go, I'm done learning. I don't really need to put any
hmm
more time or energy into that. What do you think? What have you got to share on education?
Well, certainly have thought several times in my life I had kind of gotten there. I knew enough, and then found out by way of the results I was getting, maybe, or my circumstances, that there was still more to learn. So I am a firm believer in lifelong learning. I'm a firm believer in what's known as the law of thermodynamics, where you're either basically growing or you're not. But the
Yeah.
alternative to that is going backward or dying. And so, the mind is a tool, and I'm a firm believer if it's not used, it kind of goes to mush. So
Yeah.
big believer in lifelong learning, and we use kind of the catchy phrase, you got to learn to earn.
Right. And that's true. It's time back in a little bit to the care philosophy. And we can get really really good at the things that we already know and do. Yeah, but to
hmm
grow, it's going to require some education. There's so many different ways you can get some more learning, but um whether it's podcasts or books, conferences, one of the keys, I think, in our community and through the Action Coach Network, is getting together with other people. That's that community we
Yes.
talked about on another one. But you know knowledge is not the problem. Good grief, we've got AI, we've got Google, we've got so many resources for content. But what you and I get to bring to the table is the application of the content. You good grief, you and I both have conversations with people where they're really really smart. But life is coming at them, business is coming, demands are coming in so many different ways, and it's the application of that is where the rubber meets the road. But even still, it's a process of learning more. Being open minded. That's what we look for in ambitious owners, is those that are open minded and eager to learn. That's what education is, right? Um,
Hungry for knowledge.
yeah, absolutely. And
Mhm.
if I run on a second here, the R in care is results oriented. We talked about in that session about being intentional about what results you want, and then slow down enough and think, what have I got to do to be able to get there?
That's right.
More often than not, the reason we're not getting the results we want is because we don't know how. We either don't know how to actually execute on it. We might know the theory, but how
hmm
to actually pull it off and be successful with it. And so, that educational component is learning the theory, but also talking with other people in the community and having accountability partners, and just figuring out how to actually execute the education that we've got. Starts with the learning, but then you got to apply it to get the results.
Yes. Yes. And thinking of many in our community that have been the skilled labor in their business, or maybe in a business, before they
Mhm.
then had it put on their heart to go start their own business. And so they come in with a skill that's the result, like you mentioned, of knowledge plus application develops the skill. I learn it, I do it. That's that, like, hear one, see one, teach one, is kind of the adult learning theory.
Mhm.
Or it's not kind of, it is the adult learning
Yeah.
theory. And so, with that being said, though, case in point with a tradesperson, and they know how to do electric work inside and out. They can do it without getting shocked, which is admirable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when it comes to selecting systems and leveraging those systems, right? Um, so when we come in and start working with a client, very slow to start making recommendations on new tools and new technologies and new techniques without first doing a discovery. We call it a business background, but a discovery to say, well, what's the current state look
Yeah.
like? And oftentimes identify that there are capabilities within the current abilities or the current tools and technology that the owner, the operator, the director, the manager, whatever we're working with, doesn't have the knowledge to make use of. And
Mhm.
so developing the knowledge then also gives them the opportunity to apply it. And many times, back to the R you were speaking of, it improves the results because of those efficiencies
Yeah.
or the ability to bridge the gap, right, in our own skill set. So if I'm manually doing everything and I figure out how to use a spreadsheet, I'm going to be more effective and more efficient, therefore more productive, and I can use my skills on things that are more impactful to growing and or providing a
Yeah.
level of service for my business. So that trail there hopefully is good to say it's not just getting some degree at an institution. It's topical, but it's definitely, to your point, there's a balance between new information and then applying what you have access to and making the most of what we have. And there's a delicate balance that
Right.
some accountability and perspective is valuable in that community for the CAR and care as well. So really
Yeah.
stirred some thoughts for me there, David.
Yeah, and that's great. And the interesting thing is that there's a lot of us have aspirations of having a certain size business, and we've grown. There's so many businesses around that they're really good businesses, and they've kind of plateaued. And when you think about it, in many cases, it's because the owner has learned how to own a $5 million business and how to run a $5 million. But a $10 million business is entirely different. $1 million business is a different set of dynamics than a $500,000 business. Yeah, I can manage me and a helper, but now I've got a couple of crews out there. That's a different set of
It
management
is.
skills, leadership skills, strategic planning, whole different marketing budget, sales process. Now I've got a CSR in the office. Like it's a whole new level. And that's part of this education is we've all grown to our level of knowledge and capabilities and stuff, but to go to another level, it requires some new education.
It
And
does.
if an individual's not open to that, then that is perfectly fine. But don't get upset with yourself or, complain if you're not willing to learn what it takes to get to the next level. Be content with where you are, and that's fine. If you
It
do
is.
want more, then it requires some education. And again,
Yes.
it's one of the key components of this care philosophy.
Yeah. And I think I used that term, which I use is, we work with a lot of ambitious, discontent leaders,
Yeah.
and that they're not underperforming. It's they know there is more that can be had, more that can be done. And I think in the last episode, we talked about our success formula, be times do equals have. We have a couple tools we use to support that. One of those being an evaluation in the 6 steps of building a better business or a
Yeah.
successful business. And part of that toolkit helps to identify in those areas how does a leader or an owner rate themselves in the areas of time, finances, having a clear destination as far as a
Mhm.
business plan and their delivery model, operations manual, playbook, key performance, all the things.
Right.
When someone self rates, it's so powerful, isn't it, to give them a framework to work within, but then to come to your own realization where your knowledge gap, as I'll call it, gives us clarity to say, well, we need to start back here to have a firm foundation to build on top of before you add those additional staff or more fleet vehicles or another
Yeah.
location. Let's focus on the foundation. And many times that's the learning or the education side of it to say, let's get some clarity and some knowledge that you can apply around managing your finances or performance management or building a winning
Right.
team, right?
And it's interesting in talking with owners, for the first time, or a lot of times they don't even know the questions to ask.
Mm-mm.
That's part of the education. Like, what questions should we be asking? And yeah, to your point, that simple little assessment or questionnaire is a great
Yeah.
tool. And grief, if anybody's listening to this and wants access to it, just pop us a
Yeah,
note and we'll get it to you. But it's
absolutely.
knowing what questions to ask, and then you've got a little feel for, boy, where's the ideal place to put a little extra energy for me to grow to the next level.
Yeah.
That's freedom. Yeah.
And I think about it like with my kids, they start a school year, they get a placement, they do the end of the year, they do an end of grade. So it's
Yeah.
that front level so that it's not punitive, it's to position yourself for success and
Yeah.
having self awareness and an emotional quotient, our EQ. Success, highly successful people are very self aware And part of that
Mm.
learning is being willing to be self-aware and say, I don't know everything. There is more that I can master, and I am better by way of having some education, focusing on the clarity of my results, the accountability structure that we talked about, and
Yeah.
obviously most of that education is going to become by way of some sort of community, whether it's in today's world of virtual or it's in, face to face. But those are our CARE philosophies: CARE, community, accountability, respect, and then all kind of on the foundation of education, or who we are or who we're working to become.
Excellent. Good stuff, Matt.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time with you, David. I
All
appreciate
right.
these conversations, and there's more to come. Stay tuned.
Thank you.